Hey, look who's calling me in the middle of the show. It's Paul Mitchell from the Texas Free Thought Convention.
Oh, don't take that call.
I'm declining it because Paul and I can talk about it later. Let's, Jamie in Kingsport, how are you? Oh, turn down whatever you've got.
Your feedback big time.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah, how you doing?
Okay, yeah, I was in the Army. I was a chaplain assistant. I started going to seminary at Liberty, where Jerry Falwell was the president of.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got a question about, since I was a chaplain assistant, what's your view on humanist-atheist chaplains in the military?
Nick, do you have a view on human-atheist chaplains in the military?
That seems like an oxymoron to me. I think that there are humanist practitioners that can offer guidance and assistance. It's almost like a social work thing, which is in large part what pastors do when they talk about helping their flock with social problems, personal problems, that sort of thing. Much of it is non-religious based, and humanists can do that same thing without a reference to a higher power or a higher being that's going to solve all the problems for them. In that sense, then there probably should be an alternative for people who are non-believers, who just want somebody to go in and talk to in a quiet room someplace and complain about their commanding officers. But, you know, the whole idea of having a religious representative there on our tax roll, I mean our tax dollars, to offer religious instruction to soldiers, it sticks in my craw from the very beginning, just as a basic separation of church and state thing. And yet it has a long history. We've been doing this since the Revolutionary War. The Revolutionary Army had chaplains in it, although in large part for a long time they were kind of volunteer type things. They agreed to come in and help these folks, help the soldiers over these issues, moral and ethical issues. But then at some point it got institutionalized, and our concern now is that in a large part the the chaplain corps has drawn from the religious fundamentalist right version of Christianity. They're not fully representative of the full panoply. They do get instruction. They're told that they have to provide service to all manner of folks, of soldiers, but clearly their bias is with that religious fundamental, because that's where
they're definitely proselytizing, and a lot of chaplains can't admit that they're proselytizing.
Yeah.
But that's what they're doing. They're trying to save souls ultimately, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, among the fundamentalists, it's almost impossible for them to not proselytize, so they don't even recognize it when they're doing it.
Yeah.
My take on the chaplaincy is very similar to Nick's, although I have some subtle differences. And one is, as long as we're operating a voluntary military, we have to provide all of the services to those people that they would normally get if we're sending them out away from home. And for religious people, I think we have an obligation to at least provide them the option of counseling with a religious member. However, since we offer religions this huge break of making them tax-free, I think they should go back to being voluntary and sponsored by churches. But I think the biggest issue that we have to address first is to seriously, dramatically reduce the scope of the chaplaincy so that they are dealing only with those people who specifically request them and only on issues that are related to that individual's religion. We need qualified, trained psychologists and counselors to deal with people and available to the people who'd rather not go in and talk to a priest about what's going on.
So the big like Billy Graham, I was part of the Franklin Graham Crusade as a counselor and all that. Several chaplain assistants were. So that kind of stuff out. Or
Yes. And any requirement from anyone to any service member that they must attend a religious service, that has to end yesterday. That has to end even faster than don't ask, don't tell. Because you should never be able to... You've got this... The military is different. Very different. Because you have people who are in subordinate roles, who are expected to follow the instructions of the people superior to them automatically, without question, except, you know, when they're given orders that are illegal. Because lives depend on it. And you build this camaraderie, and I was in for 8.5 years. I loved it. I recommend it, especially for somebody who isn't sure what they're going to do and may not have the direction or the funds to do it. It provides a good opportunity to grow and learn things. But it's not, things don't operate the way they do in the regular civilian world. And as long as that's the case, you have to take extra steps to make sure that you are not explicitly or implicitly demanding that somebody attend religious services or possibly punishing them for not doing it. Because I knew guys...
Extra cleaning.
Yeah, I knew guys who got stuck cleaning the barracks because they didn't want to go to service. And so, of course, everybody ended up going to a church service, especially in boot camp, because who would rather clean the toilets? I mean, that has to end. And the first step in that is to dramatically reduce the scope of the chaplaincy and to add in secular counselors who are trained to deal with everybody. And those people can direct the religious people who want to speak to a religious counselor to the chaplaincy. There needs to be a front, like, firewall in front of the chaplaincy.
Do you think it's uninformed atheists who think that religious chaplains should be removed completely out of the military? Like no chaplains at all? Like handle it with different...
I don't know. I can't obviously speak for them because there's a number of people who feel that way. I just happen to disagree because I saw, you know, when I was religious and I was in the military while I was a Christian, I would have wanted, while I was out in the middle of the Gulf, in the Gulf War, if something had happened, I would have wanted to talk to somebody as close to my own denomination as possible. It's impractical on for example, an aircraft carrier of 6,000 like I was on, to have a representative of every religion. And I mean, it's just absurd. And so you need the secular counselors who then can perhaps remove the chaplaincy, now that we're in this new age where we can Skype via satellites around the world, remove the chaplaincy entirely and have these counselors direct people to ministers who aren't in the military, to a representative of their religion, get them in touch with somebody. I think it'd be cheaper to even fly some of these individuals out on occasion or give them a 48-hour pass and ship them home so they can talk to a minister if it's that serious and it's what they want to do, than it would be to continue paying a chaplaincy corps, who, by the way, never mind. I won't say anything too bad about them. But yeah, I would like to see it go away in stages.
Okay. Well, yeah, like I said, I enjoy your show, and I became an atheist about 5 or 6 months ago while I was still in seminary, my first year.
Yeah, that happens a lot.
Fantastic. You got a good journey ahead of you. Hope you enjoy it.
Yes, yes.
Thanks a lot for calling.
I'm looking forward, Matt, to seeing you dress Jay. It's going to be hilarious.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping it's not too funny because I should be hot.
Thank you, Jamie.
Thanks a lot for the call.
Yep.